Here's a recipe. Take two of the hottest sport bikes on the planet, the BMW HP4 and the Ducati 1199 Panigale R, and mix in two great riders, CycleWorld's Canet and former AMA Supersport champ Eric Bostrom. Then, we let them loose on one of America's top tracks. What's the result? Living large at Laguna.
Hey Eric, that session was pretty crazy, you know, following you down through the corkscrew and in the rainy curb. You're on this Ducati Panigale here. So how was it you were able to get that bike turned so well down in the apex of rainy?
The Panigale really rewards you for having a ton of load on the suspension. And Laguna Seca being unique, and it's like dropping out of an elevator shaft on the way out of the corkscrew and the run down in the rainy. And it's perfect for this motorcycle because it forces so much weight into the chassis, you know, and weight into the tires. So it puts the bike right in its happy spot, and you're able to maximize what this bike does so well, which is a tight apex.
Yeah, so that was probably on a minimal traction control setting because it looked like the back end would step and it would just stay right there.
I definitely had the TC setting backed out because it, as tame as you can make these motorcycles, ultimately you're throwing down all this cash for that like the gobs of horsepower that comes with it, and you want to feel that rush.
This BMW, you know, this isn't the BMW my granddad used to ride, let me tell you that. His didn't have traction control like this HP4, and there was times where I felt like a superbike hero, you know, chasing around multi-time Laguna Seca, you know, winter here. A bike like this with the electronics package, you know, allows a guy like me, a fast track day level rider, and I'm able to just screw the thing on, feel the thing step and bite, and then it just sustain that level of deflection all the way off a corner. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, you were able to hit your line every time on this bike.
Both these bikes have anti-lock brakes, ABS, which is kind of a new thing for a full-fledged sport bike to have ABS. What did you think of that?
Certainly it's easier to tell the feel on the ABS on the BMW because you can actually feel it work, but it's also a compromise because it, in my opinion, works too much. On the Ducati, I never felt it work. It just felt like it had as good of brakes as any superbike I've ever ridden, and I have no complaints, but I also don't, I can't vouch for them that the ABS actually works because I never got it in the gravel, but man, I broke deep and I, you know, was on the edge of traction.
Both of us experienced the HP4 with the ABS turned on. You do feel some kickback in the lever.
Yeah, it's really forgiving, and you can't get yourself into trouble with too much rear brake because rear brake will just soften on the entry, and so it ends up being such a nice safety blanket, but I feel like at 10/10ths, it just becomes a little too aggressive.
You did have a chance to do some laps on the HP4 with the system deactivated. What were your thoughts on those laps?
That instantly became the way that I would run it on the racetrack because I just, you know, had that feel and intimacy with the brakes of being able to get the bite that I wanted without having the lever soften. However, on the street, I think it's a no-brainer to go with the ABS setting.
Yeah, and talking about other electronic features, over here on the Panigale, there was the engine braking control. So what did you learn with that today?
We started off with the Ducati factory setting, which was a little bit more of an aggressive engine braking, and it ended up skidding the rear tire into the corners and also upsetting the chassis a little bit because you had that aggressive engine braking kind of wanting to make the bike pitch. The moment that we turned it down to the loosest setting to make it freewheel into the corners, all of a sudden the chassis got much more steady, and it was very easy to carry that corner speed in the corner, and you're not worried about chasing the thing on the way in, and it's much less apt to do that rocking chair thing that it was doing earlier.
So both these bikes have electronic suspension, but there's two different strategies at play here. The HP4 is actually, dynamically active, and then here on the Ducati, it's electronic adjustment.
The Ducati has this very racetrack feel, straight off, straight rolling out of the pits, and that is, kind of what an old school racer like myself would expect from a race bike and suspension to feel. The BMW, on the other hand, you roll out onto the track and it has a pretty plush feel. But as you start going faster, it starts getting stiffer, and the more load you put on the tires, the stiffer the bike becomes. It sort of comes to you, and once you learn that, the bike will give you that extra support when you need it.
So ultimately, out of these two bikes, first thing in the morning, your first ride on each bike, which bike felt more comfortable, more confidence inspiring, initially?
Hands down, it's the BMW. There's something about the way the weight and the ride position, you kind of sit in the motorcycle, and it just gets to the apex so clean and so easy. That said, the Ducati it takes a few laps, and it kind of feels like there's you have this higher riding position, and the bike's more apt to kind of pitch back and forth. But once you get it up to speed, it starts doing everything right, and it apex is incredible. The Ducati takes a little bit more time to learn how to ride the motorcycle than the BMW.
Yeah, what did you do, like a 133.07 on this, and it totally smoked this German bike, which did a 133.09, so 200s.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the difference
200s,
between a race win and,
that's right.
Yeah.
and a race win.
Yeah.